Good morning, Central Texas. Welcome to KISS Community Connections at 1031. I'm Phyllis Jones, your host, and I'm your guest because today we have a lot to talk about. This time, we're going to leave the word COVID alone. But also, well, just for that, we're not going to dive into it too much, just a little bit maybe. But I want you to know that staff started school this week. And social distancing for us was kind of strange because we're not used to that. So we were about as bad as some of the kids will be about it. Not bad, just, being bad, but we kept with the oops. And I must admit, wearing a mask from 8 to 4 was one of the most difficult times of I don't know what. We wore a mask, but naturally when we ate, we took it off and stuff like that. But, oh boy, that wasn't easy. Not at all. But anyway, we have some upcoming elections. And we're going to talk about the positions and the strategy because a lot of us vote, but we don't understand the strategy behind how we're voting. And we don't understand the makeup of how we're voting. We vote kind of not strategically. And we all need to learn that voting is not just voting. It's not just, oh yeah, I voted. Yeah. No, it's not it. It's how we vote. And which makes a big difference because sometimes we're not voting with the game plan in mind, meaning we're voting all over the place and we don't realize what we're doing. So we're going to start from the top down because now it's time for candidates forums. It's time for Meet the Candidates days. It's time for most of the candidate things we know will probably be on Zoom, but it's time to question them. It's time to make out your plan. First of all, who these people are. We need to know who they are from the president all the way down to your city council and school board. But we need to know who they are and what they're about. If they're incumbents, then we need to look at their voting records. And I mean, look at their voting records are online. Your legislators and all the voting records are online so you can look. Each candidate, no matter what seat they're running for, has a Facebook page. So if it's a candidate that you don't know them you don't know them, you know their name, but you're not quite familiar with them, go to their Facebook pages and ask questions. I mean, seriously, go ask them because remember, like I said, if we put them in office, we're charging them with a job to do. If they're not doing that job, then the next move should be see you later, goodbye. You didn't work out. I'm giving your voting papers and we're moving you to retirement or wherever else, but you're not going to be here anymore. But what I'm talking about the strategy is this. So I'm going to start at the top. President, as we know, his job is to run the country, but not really run the country. As we know, when the president wants something done, he has to take it to the Congress, which is what people call the House, and then it has to go to the Senate. So it could be stopped and he can't do what he wants. He or she, being the president, can't do what they want to do unless they do something that we've heard so much. So, I know when we first heard it, we're like, what the world is that? But a president can do what's called an executive order. And an executive order bypasses everybody. It just goes by everybody. Congress don't have nothing to say. Well, they might have something to say, but they have nothing to do with that action. Your Senate has nothing to do with that action. Basically, you've told both of them, I know how you're going to vote. You're going to vote against me on doing this. So I'm going to do an executive order and bypass everybody. Is that always a safe thing to do? Kind of no, because like I said, you're bypassing some of the people who support you when you do that. So the president, yes, runs the country, but then again, he has to get a vote to actually put something in place. It has to be a vote. So he cannot go out and say, we're going to spend $2 billion over there. He can say it, but he has to get the vote to get it approved. So that is your president. Your Congress. Your Congress, their job is basically, your Congress people are your federal government. So your federal government falls up under there. That's where Congress is. It falls up under there. And their job, like I said, is also since each area or each district has a congressperson, we need to be reaching out to them right now, on Facebook, email, phone number, whatever they are, because there's things we know need to be put in place like right now. There are things we know as far as the federal government is concerned, that needs to be put in place. We know, we already got it. So we should be contacting them quickly. Now, can they pass the bill by themselves? No, they can't. They have to get the Senate to agree with it. But overwhelmingly, parts of people are voting in the Senate. Yeah, they got to win that way. So your Senate, United States Senate, that's another set of people who are in your area, wherever you live. You have a senator. You have one. You need to, and you have one running for Senate. You have a new person running for Senate. So once again, you need to go to Facebook. Most of them have one. Like I said, I haven't ran into any of them that don't have one, but read the Facebook page, read up on them. If they're a newly elected official, well, a new person running as a candidate, naturally they won't have a voting record, so it's nothing for you to look at. But look at them on Facebook, ask them questions. As far as our Congress and our Senate, we do know what we need. We know what our communities want. If you are a community activist, you do know what your community needs and wants. You do know what people that you work with, or that you hear from, or you talk to. You have a feeling of what they need. You have one. Well, that needs to be relayed to your person who's either running for Congress or Senate, or who is the sitting person that's running for Senate and Congress. We need to reach out to them. We don't need to leave them alone and say, well, I put you here, so we're all fine. No, we don't. That's not how it goes. You don't put them in there and turn them loose, because you will find out that some of them talk the good game, but when you see them voting, you're like, I don't get it. Now, also the alignment. You can either hurt your president or help your president. So I'm gonna go backwards because I can. I'll say when we first elected President Barack Obama, we did him a disservice. I know everybody's like, why? What do you mean? We didn't. Yes, we did. You see, in order for your president, who you want to be president, to be a successful president, if the person that you're voting for, let's say, is a Democrat, then to give him or her an easier time, make sure your Senate and your Congress are predominantly Democrat. If not, your president is not going to have a good time. If you have a Democratic president and he has a Republican Congress and Senate, he's not going to get nothing done. Nothing, because they're going to oppose. We're going to vote for nothing for you. We'll let some things slide, some not. And that's what happened with President Obama. People say he didn't do nothing. Well, you gave a Democratic president, a Republican Congress and Senate. Can't do anything. They can't. It's impossible. Now with Donald Trump, he's having a hard time now because he has a Congress that's controlled by Democrats. He has a Senate that's controlled by Republicans. So that's why he's not having an easy time, because he has both parties in control of each one. So it's not going to be an easy time for him. And if people paid attention, when he got sworn in, you already knew, oh my goodness, he is not going to have an easy time. Now, if you elect somebody as president, you vote for someone as president that's Republican, they in turn need a Republican-controlled Congress and Senate. Then they will have an easy street. So I'm not saying but that's how you help the president have a successful run. Now, people made sure Donald Trump did not, because they gave him the opposite, one each control. So it's not fun. So when you vote for president, whoever you vote for president, make sure that the party he's a part of can control the House and the Senate. So remember that. What party he or she, your president is, you got to make sure that they have control of that party, has the Congress and the Senate. If not, you're going to have either a president that can't get nothing done and always fighting, or either you're going to have a president that, got half and half. One is one party, the other is the other party. It's still a fight. But be careful of the strategy to which you vote. I'm saying, because the strategy should be one way, but I'll say once again, with President Barack Obama, people were busy voting for him. I voted for the president. Who else did you vote for? Nobody. Well, you had a lot of people going, okay, so much for that idea. Because people assumed that being president meant you run the country. No. It means you're the spokesperson for the country. You actually are. You're the spokesperson. And yes, the president, any president, sometimes get out there and say something. You go, where did he get that from? And it's some of his own thinking. But don't ever think that a president gets in there and he can pass what he wants to pass, do what he wants to do. No, he's got to get a vote from the Congress and a vote from the Senate in order to get something passed and actually do it. Unless he does the executive order thing, which bypasses everybody. It's not a comfortable thing, you can imagine. Because if I voted for president and I was a congressperson and that person keeps writing these executive orders bypassing me, I'm not going to be a happy camper, and I shouldn't be a happy camper, but we need to be careful of that. So when you vote, remember the strategy behind voting, at least for the president. We're going to go down, all the way down. You'll see some more. It'll be some more like that, but make sure we do. And like I said, all of them have a Facebook page, so go to their Facebook page now. When there's a candidates forum, and most of them will be virtual on Zoom and everything. So make sure you're there. You might not have a question. Right now, I can say I'm having a candidates forum for people running for Congress. And you might say, I don't have nothing for them. I don't have anything for them. And that's what you just might, I don't have anything for them. They're good to go. But you listen to them talk and you go, wait a minute, hold up, wait. Now I have a question. Because sometimes you don't have a question because you don't understand what that position does. So you don't have a question. When in actuality, you did have a question. It was just that you didn't quite know. So listen, learn, and if you don't know what their position does, look it up. We Google every darn thing else. We Google recipes, how to fix your car, how to change this, do that. We Google everything else. Google what their position does, so you can understand and know that you might just care about the position that they have. You might just care about Congress if you care about education. You might just care about the Senate if you want to know about other things. You just might care. So it's a strategy behind the vote. So remember the strategy when you vote. Don't just vote for one person and walk out the polls, because you did a disservice to yourself and everybody else. That's a disservice. And don't vote for people by their name. I know a lady who said she's going to vote for somebody because they were handsome. I'm like, oh my gosh. I expect a little kid to say that. That's really cute, because like, yeah, okay, you all would. But no, we can't vote for people because they're handsome or because they're cute, because they dress well. We can't do that, because that doesn't help anything at all. In fact, it hurts what's going on, so let's not do that. So let's drop down. We got the president. We did our Congress. We did the Senate. So we got that. I hope we got that. So let's go down one more notch. And we're going to move down to our state. And when we get to our state, we got to really talk. If you live in our Central Texas area, like Killeen, Harker Heights, Copper's Cove, Temple, Belton, you see some signs being put up already, because your people who are running for office, they can put up signs now. They can actually put them up, and that they're running. And so some of you have seen a sign and it's blue with yellow writing. You don't recognize, most people do not recognize that person's name. So, you're like, who is that? I don't know who that is, so I'm not voting for them. And that's what we say. I mean, heck, I used to do that. I used to say, I don't know who that is. But it must not be anybody I'm voting for. So, like whatever, I don't even vote for that person, and I probably don't vote for the position because I did not know. So right now around town, you see a sign and it says Tom Maynard. That's all it says. And if you go up to the sign, it tells you what he's running for. But he's running for a very important seat in Texas, in District 10. In fact, he has 3 opponents. But yet I say he'll be the one that you don't think about him. We probably check off that. We probably get down to the, on your ballot and you just check it off. What the heck? Well, we shouldn't do that, because you see, Tom Mallard is running for State Board of Education, Texas State Board of Education. And we should be really concerned with that, because many times as educators, I hate to say educators because some of us don't know who he is, but educators, parents, grandparents, anybody that touches a child, and I don't mean touch by, illegal touch, but anybody has any influence, any working with, any dealing with your kids, neighbors' kids, any kids should know who he is. And why I'm saying it is this. You go before the school board and you complain about the TEKS, the tests, all these tests. Parents go to the board, you complain to them, and they sit there and they look at you and they listen to you. And you go to them and how's this curriculum? Why are we doing this? This is stupid. Oh, da, da, da. And we blame KISD, Carpus Cove ISD, Temple Belton, all these ISDs. We blame them. But guess what? It's your State Board of Education person. On your State Board of Education, you have 15 seats. 8 are up for election this year, but we have 15 people who sit there and they vote what's going to be in school. Well, it won't be taught in school. They vote on what textbooks we're going to be using and what textbooks we're not going to be using. Those are your people in charge of education. Yes, they meet in Austin, but those are the ones that you should be complaining to. Now, pay raises is not their job, so don't talk to them about that. But questions you have about your children learning, what they get, what they don't get, how many special needs. Wow, what are all these adaptive things that they need, and speech teachers, they need OT, PT, all these people that they need. We go before the school board and we chew them out big time. Well, no, it's once again Tom Maynard, your State Board of Education chair. He is the chair. They get off easy because a lot of people don't know they exist, so they get off kind of easy because they know you're gonna chew out the school board. And you'll never get to them. Why won't you ever get to them? Because we never thought about them, first of all. And I'll admit myself, until I became the state education chair for the NAACP, I didn't know what they did. I knew they existed, but I didn't think, I'm like, State Board of Education, that doesn't sound like anything I need. Well, an issue came up years ago, and I had to go before them and speak. So you better believe I did the fastest study you ever seen in life to find out who these people are. Once I got to that meeting, I was like, and there was a lot of people there from all over. I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm listening to items that they're being brought, to them. Programs at school, different things we do in school are being talked about, curriculums that are being taught, books that are being bought for the schools. People are talking about those things, but that's because they were knowledgeable about the Texas State School Board. And sometimes we hear SBOE, which is Texas State School Board of Education. But those are the people that we need to talk to. We need to actually not turn our ears off from the State Board of Education. We need to turn our ears on. Educators. You complain about, why is this? Why is it? Oh my God, so much stuff. Well, you know what? Same thing. Contact the person. They're the ones who voted for all the things that we do, basically. That can be strategically set down from them to us. It's the board. So like I said, right now, you have Tom Maynard. Right now, all over the cities in District 10, you'll see his signs. There's 8 of them out of 15 running. And I'm going to go one step further. Since school has not started yet, and the curriculums and all that is still being kind of roughly developed, I'm challenging you. Tom Maynard's phone number is 512-763-2801. That's his phone number. Name Tom Maynard. Call him up. And for those parents and people who look like us, like me, I don't know if you know, but your Texas State School Board. Okay, let me back up first. Do you know us, a lot of schools in Texas that are voting on our young men's hair, locks. Oh my gosh. Locks have now became the attack. That's the new attack. And our young males are being, first of all, they'll say they got to reach the top of their, shirt collars. Okay. So they put them in a ponytail and they're there. Then it became, they can do that. Okay. They can just pull them up in a ponytail and they're still there. Okay. So now you came up with, well, you can't have them at all. Now, mind you, this is just young men. You can't have locks at all now. No locks. So the battle began in a bunch of school districts of, parents going before the school board. And that's where they were supposed to go. That's where they were supposed to go to. So they went before their individual ISDs. And mind you, we have 1,100 of them in Texas. But they went to their ISDs, the school district that were having an issue about hair. And they fought. Well, the school districts didn't There was no, let's talk about this period. There was no, okay, let's form a committee to really figure out what this is, because your hair does not change your brain. You know, you could wake up one morning and your hair standing all over your head. You don't brush it, don't comb it, you don't do nothing to it, but you can still think. You can still do anything you were doing with your hair, locked, no locks, standing on top of your head. Locks hadn't been done for 5 weeks. Well, yeah, hadn't been redone. Your hair has nothing to do with your brain. Nothing. It's nothing. If it does, you got a serious problem. So, but they've made locks. So locks have become the big thing now. So it went before the State Board of Education this summer, because those would be the ones who would say across Texas, no complaints. It's going to be fine. Now, your legislators can take care of that too. But right now, your state school board, about 2 weeks ago, they voted. They would back every school, every ISD in Texas. They would back them if they said no locks. Now, mind you, your school board who implements things, implements your learning, implements how you're going to learn it, implements when you're going to learn it. Like I said, implements your textbooks. They implement all these things, and they decided, of all people, to say, we'll back each school that does it. That sends volumes down. First of all, the majority of the people that are on the Texas State School Board do not look like us. And if you looked at the vote and knew who each person was, and you'll find out who voted how, who voted which way. But just think, of all things that go before your Texas State School Board. Now, if you also remember, a couple of years ago, we were challenging a book, Pearson's social studies book, 5th grade. We were challenging that book. And we challenged that book because according to that book, if anybody read it, it said that the slaves were happy until they were sold. And they lived in a colony. That's what that book said. They lived in a colony and they were happy till they were sold. All right. That was my first time speaking before the State Board of Education. That was my first time ever speaking before them. And as the state chair, it was my job. I'm supposed to do that. So, a couple of people who had been there before, I called them up. I'm like, how's it like going there, And they said, sometimes if it's a hot subject and they know it's a hot subject, they'll keep you there to 10, 12 at night. I was like, wow. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Luckily, I was going in the summertime because I wasn't working. So, I'm like, all right. So I went in there and a couple people said, hey, come in with your ice chest because you're going to get thirsty. Okay. All right. So I listened to a combination of everybody's rules. I took a Black History book with me, not one I got from school, but one I have. I took an ice chest with me because I had something to drink and something to munch on. So I walked in there. I'm like, I'm going to be the only nut in here with an ice chest. No, I wasn't. I looked around. I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's got an ice chest. Oh no, it was serious. I put up with mine and sat there. And this lady, I knew her. She sits on the state school board at that time, Mavis Night. She was on the school board. And she came over to me before it started. She goes, are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. She says, I see you've been talking to people. I said, why? She said, because you got an ice chest. Oh yeah, I got my ice chest. Oh yeah, I got my ice chest. So I got there at 8:30. Okay? 8:30 I get there. So they had a break for lunch at 12 to 1. I spoke at 5 o'clock. Mind you, I got there early, but I spoke at 5. And at 5, I did let them know that nowhere in none of the history books the slaves live in a colony. I let them know nowhere in the history books were they happy until they were sold. I did let them know they said George Washington's slaves were happy. I reminded them that George Washington I let them know that our dear president, George Washington, in his fields and all his things, he grew cannabis plants. I don't know if you know, but cannabis was used to make clothes. It was what clothes were made out of, so it was legal. But also, they were happy because, and I don't, you might not have been you, but you've heard, you've read, or either you've experienced it. But when you burning, cannabis plants, if you're burning them, whole bushes of them, everybody happy. Everybody happy because you burning it, you figure in big piles. So yes, they were happy because it was high. But anyway, I said all that, and I debated each topic that they had in that book. I used the history book to debate what they said, and I was like, okay, whoosh, all right, and a couple other people also stood up and we, said the same thing. But that's when it became quickly clear to me is that none of us challenged them enough. We kind of just let them go and do what they want to do, and we don't say nothing. We don't say anything because the first question they asked me was, "What's the title of that book, and can we see it?" So I passed the book over, and they all looked at the book because what they needed to find out who made the book. They looked. They wrote it all down. They wrote down because the book was a timeline of African American history. So the timeline. Then that timeline started way before, and I'll say way back before our ancestors were slaves, because that's not the beginning of our history, and we need to stop saying that. But anyway, that book went way back, way back. It went back to the ruler who won to change the name of Africa to Africa, because it was the general who did it was General Africa. I can't remember his name, but it was Africanus, something like that. Anyway, he got to change the name of the country to Africa. Africanus, that's what his name. So it went back way back to there. But anyway, they looked at that book. They got that book because later Mavis said after the meeting, they were like, we got to get this book. Is it a real book? Well, they bought the book online. She said they bought the book, they got it, and they studied that book to realize that I was actually telling the truth. Oh my gosh. So later on, I don't know if you were following it, but Pearson's, they didn't create a new book because nobody was complaining about it but Texas. Texas and California and a couple other southern states used that same book, the exact same book. And since Texas and California buys the most books, Pearson's was not going to change it just for one. But what they did do is online, they put the truth in there. Some of the things they just took out, like the colony thing, they took that out. And also the Africans that were bought here, they didn't call them slaves, but they were, as we know. They had expertise in growing corn, cotton, and beans. Now you heard what I said. They were experts. So they were brought here because of their expertise. Didn't say that they were slaves, and we knew they were, but this is their quote unquote expertise. Well, they took some of those things out, but online you can actually get a Pearson's book where it was either taken out or the truth is explained. But had I just went before the school board, Killeen or Copper's Cove or Temple, one of the ISDs, we would still be sitting there talking today. We would be. We would still be today talking about the same and very thing. But because I had learned to go to the state school board where this is done, I was smart. I was on it. You couldn't tell me about it. So right now what I'm telling you, if you have a problem with our school districts, and about things that you hear them implementing, check to see it might not have been them. Especially if it's a curriculum that we're doing now. It wasn't them. You need to contact right now. Same man name I gave you, Tom Maynard. You need to call him up and say, hey, what made you all vote for that? Hold them accountable. Back them into a wall. Because right now, like I said, they sit back and you imagine they crack up laughing because they know that you bring in complaints to them, to your ISD school board, and it comes to them. So imagine that right now we beat them up. We beat up our ISD school board. We whipped them pretty good, but we beat them up for something, a lot of things that they didn't have control of. But we didn't know because we just didn't know. It's not that we were dumb or anything like that. We didn't know. So we, hey, listen, how can y'all let this pass? How can y'all? Well, they're doing it because they were told to. This was it. This is how it came down. So what I'm saying is, the person who you see with these signs, and he has 3 people running with him for the same seat. But we need to start focusing on where the problem started or where the issue began. We keep going after the wrong people, which is your school board. And not to say they're all wrong. I mean, that they're all wrong, as far as what they're doing. But we're chastising them for changing the curriculum. We're chastising them because we said the kids didn't need to be tested this last school year. Well, they weren't. But guess what? Your school district didn't decide that. They came from TEA, which is Mike Morath. He's your commissioner of education. And incidentally, Mike Morath, your commissioner of education, is not an elected person. He is not, or she is not, whoever your commissioner of education, they're not elected. They are selected by your governor. So I want you to hear me. He was not elected to that position of commissioner of education. He was selected by the governor, and your governor is allowed to do that. Just want you to remember that. But the test we didn't take, that didn't come from your school district, your your ISD. It didn't. It came from TEA. TEA and the State Board of Education actually work together. They're together. They each know what each other's doing. Because, like I said, you won't hear the state board said anything. You're going to hear Mike Morath said it. Because guess what? He's got to listen to them. So you're going to hear Mike Morath said, okay, no testing. The State Board of Education voted for that. No testing. They tell him, he passes it down. So that's how it goes. They tell him, he passes it down. Once again, they tell him something, he passes it down. Now, some decisions he do make on his own. He actually does. But most things, when you hear CEA voted for da-da-da-da, or sometimes you will read. I don't know how much of Austin's paper you read or how much of the political things that you read. But like I said, when the State Board of Education said they would back up each district on how they feel about locks, the State Board of Education actually was actually put out there that they were unanimously supporting this. Now, is there a way to fight that? As far as your state board saying we back them, is that a lost fight? No, it's not. It just makes it a bigger fight, but it's not lost. It's not lost. It's not at that time where the parents or you go home and say, you know what, this is what they said. Oh well. Nope, it's not. Oh well. No. Okay, so we're down to your Texas State School Board. Like I said, remember, you vote for him. So I challenge you all, the next time you have a question about school, I want you to call Tom Maynard. I want you to call him at 512-763-2801. I want you to call him up. Educators, I want you to call him up. Call him. Hey, listen, how did this get here? Ask him. Remember, you voted for this man, and if you didn't vote for him, he's in a seat to do some work. But he doesn't get to do too much of it from listening to districts because you don't go talk to him. You don't call him. Don't email him. We just leave him alone. Let them do what they want to do. And basically, let's admit, yes, we have. Those of you who can run for office and you're looking for office to run in and you're interested in education, next time the elections is for these seats, run for them. They don't meet every month. No, your Texas State School Board does not meet every month. They meet, I think, is every quarter. They meet in Austin. And you have one that represents each area. So I don't know why, and I'm not going to say I don't know why, but I think after so many years of being in education, you should know who that person is. You should wonder who's making this, as we call sometimes, who made up this stuff? Were they asleep? Did they make this up playing with, what are they doing? Well, we need to check. The last state school board member we had, she was out of Lampasas, and I went to a meeting, Texas State School Board meeting, and I'm listening, and all of a sudden she said, well, she didn't think sex education should be taught in schools because kids learn it on the street. When she said that, you know how you're sitting and you're listening, but you're not listening. When she said that, I turned around and looked at her, and I wanted to say, can you repeat that? But I didn't. I'm just looking at her. I'm like, no, she didn't say that. Yeah, she didn't say that, So for lunch, I went back. I'm like, we got it. Because when we adjourned, it was an adjournment in the middle of her talking. So, for lunch, I came down there with some other educators, and I'm like, they said, you going to eat? I can't eat. I couldn't eat. You know what I was focused on? Looking her up. I focused on looking her up. I was like, there's no way anybody with good sense could say this. But I looked her up, and I'm like, I'm arming myself because I've got to say something about this. So I looked it up, found a couple of things about her. Like, gotcha. So we went back, back to into the meeting where she was still talking about her reasons for, sex education not being taught in schools. And I also realized that sometimes you can't be nice to a candidate. I mean, to a sitting elected official. Sometimes being not nice will get you what you need. So I did sign up to speak. And I was going to speak to her on other topics that she had on the agenda. But that one, hey. So I asked anybody they want to speak, and I went up to speak. I introduced myself. Let them know, good afternoon, how you doing? But I asked her, I said, you stated that we don't need to teach sex ed in school. Not necessary. Kids can learn it on the street. She goes, yes, I did say that. I said, well, you have a daughter who at 15 years old had a baby. So where did she learn? I said, so she learned sex ed on the street. She just looked at me like I had lost my mind. She looked at me like, you did not say that. And she just looked at me, So I'm looking at her. I'm waiting for an answer, and she said, I will rather talk to you about this offline. Outside, I would rather talk to you about that. I said, I said, I have a problem with that because you stated that in here for everybody to hear. I said, now that I'm asking you a question about it, we have to talk offline, outside, after the meeting. You have my card. I said, I know that's not what I want. I said, because I feel that if you said this the way you said it, one, you meant it. Two, you knew what you were saying. So my thing is, no, I need an answer like right now. I need an answer today because you said it. I don't want to walk out of here with, what you say is settled and then, what anybody else says is not. So what she says, well, accidents do happen. That's all she said. She said, accidents do happen. Our children aren't always perfect. But I said, so if it was taught in school, maybe it wouldn't have happened. She says, well, I'm going to just say accidents happen. Kids do make mistakes. I said, and my thing is that if she was taught in school, would it have still happened? And she said she didn't know. She didn't know. And I was all right with that because I wanted her to finally get to say, no, to say it right. But what I was not supposed to do was go check. And like I said, when she said that, I had to go look up her record fast because I didn't look up her record before. So I had to go look it up. I came back, hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to play it undercut. You got to do it right. So I said what I said, and she did not expect that. After the meeting was over, she came straight to me, straight to me. And she goes, how'd you find that out? I checked. I said, for lunch, I did not eat. I sat with my friends, but I didn't eat. I had to look you up. I said, because I cannot believe a woman or a man either, but really a woman. I couldn't have expected her to ever say something like that. So she unnerved me, so I had to check her out. I did. But anyway, I'm going back to say, your State Board of Education having an election. Our person from District 10 is running. Call him. Talk to him. See if he has a Facebook page. Ask some questions. Before you go before your ISD with a question that sounds like it's bigger than our district, call them. Don't let them rest. Don't let them sit up there and go, well, everything's fine, so we're fine. No. Don't give them that comfortable feeling. So since they're up for election, vote for them. Call them. I'm sure right now, any educator, I'm sure you have 500 questions to ask right now, but you're not asking him. You're actually just letting them go and you're letting them get away with it. But we need to stop it. So remember, your State Board of Education person for our district, our area, is Tom Maynard. We need to talk to Tom Maynard. We need to, like I said, call him up. Ask him what's his views on different things. He has some because he's running. If we have a candidates forum, and if you're having one and you're inviting your state officials, such as your legislators, who we always, invite your school, invite him. When you invite the legislators to a forum, invite him. Don't leave him out. Don't let him think that, okay, we're happy and we're fine. No, because that's when crazy things happen. That's when just they sit back and chill and go, oh, okay, fine. I don't know whether you know it or not, but your superintendent has to meet with TEA and State Board of Education once a month. They actually have to meet with them and discuss and take reports. You know, our principals, you hear them saying they have to do a report? Yes, because they have to do a report to give it to the superintendent. So when the superintendent goes before and has a meeting with the state board and our TEA person, which was Mike Morath, when they go meet with him, they have to have a report. And he doesn't read all the reports, there's no way. But he has different, he has the college students who read the reports to find out what's really going on in your districts. So those things that we think are, are minute are actually very important. So I'm leaving the State Board of Education person, but I'm telling you again, his name is Tom Maynard, 512-763-0201. And if we don't like what he's talking about, next time he's up for election, let's put somebody in that seat. Let's control that seat. Education is a big part of our kids' life. In fact, it's the largest part of their life. So let's show them we care about it. Let's put somebody in that seat if we don't like him. Next time he's running, we got time to groom somebody. We have retired teachers who are chilling, who they are. You got some school board members who never had any kids. But, you have people that's in the community that want to look for what to run for. Run for the State Board of Education. Show our kids we care. So let's help them out. Okay, so let's move down. And we're going to go to the governor. All right. Our governor right now, and whoever we elect as governor, their job is to run the state. But remember, your governor, he once again, for a lot of things he does, he has to get a vote. When your legislators are in session, which is not very, very long, when they're in session and they have bills that have to be, have to be read and submitted and going to the floor. Those are some of the things that end up being where he stands. We have a Speaker of the House for your state board. He's the one in charge of the legislators. He's the one who says whether they're going to work overtime or not. But you got to remember, the most powerful person is not your governor. It's your lieutenant governor. And his name is Dan Patrick. He's the strongest one. Your governor, yes, he can say things. He can, listen to different people and, come out like the CDC. We've never heard from our governor so much until COVID came. And he's making decisions. And some of the decisions you're like, you want to know if the decisions made up on money, campaign funds, or what? Because for a while there, it seemed that he didn't know what to do about COVID. It was almost like he had no clue on what to do, how to fix nothing. It was just like, oh my gosh. But you got to figure he was listening to a group of people. He did pick a committee to talk about how things are done. But your governor, we vote for him. We vote on him. And he needs the same thing the president does. I know, sounds weird. But your governor, whatever party he is, that's what he needed the majority of your legislators and your senators to be. He needs the majority. In your Texas state, we have legislators and we have senators. Not a U.S. senator, but a senator. So we have those people. In order for your governor to have a successful time, the predominant number needs to be of the same party he is. Our governor is Republican right now, so he needs the legislators and the Senate to be majority Republican. If he was a Democrat, he needed a majority to be Democrat. So remember, those are your strategies for voting. Don't vote yin yang all over the place because you're not giving anybody any power. You're diluting their power. You're making it to be an embattled fight that we don't know what to do with. But remember, your governor, yes. Certain emergency things he can pass and do, yes. The thing where he has to do with COVID, with what's opening and what's closed, you got to figure, first of all, yes, that is his job to decide what's open and what's closed. But also he has to listen to the people. Most of all, he listened to his Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, but not always, because, Dan Patrick wouldn't have closed anything. It would have been all open. Everything would be open, and we'd be just, falling off. However, that was his choice, because we've heard him. But you got to remember, your governor is a spokesperson only for the state. But he, too, remember, we vote for him. We actually vote for him. And the lieutenant governor, you got to remember, he's the most powerful person in the state. He actually is. He is the most powerful. He's the one who delivered the word from the governor to the legislators and to the Senate. He's the one that can say, okay, we're going into special session. Special session is meaning instead of going home Labor Day, you're going home whenever this session is over and I get what I want, which is exactly how it goes. If I don't get what I want, y'all not going home. Can he do that? Yes. Does he have the power to do that? Yes. But him and the Speaker of the House, they can argue about that because the Speaker has like, these are my people, they going home, him, there they are. So that becomes an embattlement. Do we vote for the Speaker of the House? I mean, from the Senate and the legislators? No, we don't vote on them. We don't vote on them. They vote who that person is. But we do vote for the governor and lieutenant governor. So you need to remember, we do vote for these people. We need to pay attention to who we're voting for, who we put into the seats. Okay, let's move down to your legislators and your Senate. First of all, next year they're going to session January 1st. January 1st, they're in office, and their committees will be picked. They have a committee. Each of them have just like your Congress and your United States Congress and United States Senate. They have committees. They're their own. Your legislators and your Senate in our state, they have committees too. So their committees will be passed out in January. Who they got, their assignments will be. Most likely, most of them keep the ones from year to year, but some of them, they get changed. So once they get that done, they're ready to receive bills from you. Now they have some they've created too. But also they should be receiving yours. You should be writing them. Because if they don't vote for what you want, it's because you didn't tell them. Not ask them. Because remember, our job is to hold them accountable. Our job is for them to do what we say, not what they say. They work for us. We do not work for them. So your legislators right now, from the Black Legislative Caucus, there's a bill. It's called the Crown Act. And the Crown Act has been passed in a lot of states in the United States. But the Crown Act says that it's to leave our hair alone. Actually, our hair is our culture heritage. And it's not affecting their learning. It is not affecting anything. So it's to be left alone. So it's to get rid of, when at State Board of Education, I told you, is agreeing to back to schools. Well, if our legislators pass the Crown Act, that's done. If they pass it, all that other mess is done. All ISDs with their little rules, we don't want this, we don't want that. The ISDs where the young man had all these parts in his head and the teacher decided she was going to use the vis-a-vis to color him in. Yeah, she did. Did the school district get sued? Yes, they did. And did they lose? Yes, they lost. They had to pay the parents. But all those crazy things ago. All those things with that little young man who was on Ellen's show and, who got put out of school and all this. Grades are great. Young man's grades are terrific, but he got put out because of that. All that will go away once the Crown Act is passed. So if you look like me, or if you care about kids' education, when we had these candidates form and these legislators come in, I'll be like, hey, what you think about the Crown Act? If they say I don't know about it, you might want to think. Because if this is important to you, it should be important to him. You might want to think about that person if they don't know. So whatever, and we need to hold the legislators and your senators, we need to hold them accountable on a local area. Every area has a senator. Every area has a legislator. Know who your legislators are. They're up for election. If they have an opponent, and if they don't have an opponent, you're stuck. They're not running it. You're stuck with them more time. But if they do have an opponent, go on Facebook. Like I said again, go on Facebook. Ask them questions. Now, if they got a Facebook page that's private and they blocking everybody, you don't need my vote. You don't need me to vote. You don't need my vote because I can't even communicate with you. So do just what they don't communicate. Well, you're not gonna get my vote. But ask our legislators right now what they think about certain things that are running. Ask them right now because in January they go in session. Also, it's time for us to write bills and submit them. People tell me they can't write one. Well, first of all, if you Google will teach you how to write one. Once you write out what you put in there, you learn how to put the whereas, therefores. Really, your whole legislative bill that you're writing is a bunch of whereas and therefores. So if you write it out how you're going to write it, You'll figure out where the whereas, therefores go, and you submit it. Now, if you don't do that and just submit it the way you said it, it's fine. Because what your legislators will do once they get in office or reelected, however that goes, they'll give them to some of their interns, and the interns will fix it for you. So it's time we learn to do that. It's time that we stop, I put him in there, he didn't do nothing. Well, did you ask him to do anything? No, well, then be quiet. You don't get in there, you don't vote for them and turn them loose. No, it's like bringing some kids in classroom and says, I need y'all to color, and don't tell them what to color. When they color the walls, you shouldn't say nothing. You tell them. You gave them more directions. We'll treat them just like that. Hold them accountable. Talk to them. Speak with them. Argue with them. If you don't agree with what they said, tell them. My legislator right now, he kind of knows me very well because I used to call or email and say, hey, that was dumb. Why did you vote like that? But yeah, I want you to explain that to me. I want to understand. I want you to tell me why you voted that way, because you work for me. And let them know that you work for me. Make them aware all the time that you work for me. Let them know I expect to hear from you. Even if you got, now to me, I would think this. Yes, in my area, we have a candidate, an incumbent who's running, and we have a new person that's running. Well, I'm not going to ask the new person that's running, I need to answer to this, 'cause that's not fair. I'm going to ask the person who's sitting, hey, what is this? How does this go? I'm going to ask them because it's their job right now. I don't care whether I voted for them or not. It's their job, and I need to know because you're in that seat right now, so I still need to know this. But talk to your people who are running for legislator. Talk to those that are running for Senate and ask them the local questions. Ask them those things that you don't think make quite much sense. Ask them why, what are you doing? What do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? Now, also, you can ask them why they feel about it, how they feel about education. Because all you got to do after January 1st is look up the legislators and the senators and see what committees they're on and jump on that committee. The ones that are on the education committee, hey, you can find who all of them are. Talk to them. What do you have? What you got planned for the next 2 years? I need to know. I need you to email me what it is. And if you think there's need to be more in there, write a bill and send it in. And I'm serious. Write it. Send it in. They tell you to send them in January 1st. Let's cheat. I want you to know that they have their own bills ready at the last Friday in November. Their bills are ready and they're filing them. But they tell you to wait for January 1st. So I'm just saying, file them like they do. Send them in just like they do. We will know who won. So send them in just like they do. And make sure that it gets, and then follow that bill. If the bill gets into committee, you want to make sure it gets out of committee. If it gets out of committee, it goes to the floor for a vote. So if they tell you, well, it's still sitting in committee, and then you need to call those committee people and ask them, why is it still there? Because remember, you're still in charge. And these committee people are people that you voted for. So ask them why is it in there? Exactly where is it stuck? Challenge them. Challenge them. And because you want to get out of the committee. Once they get out of the committee, it makes it to the floor. So once again, hold your legislators and your senators. Hold them up. Hold them up on what they're doing. Talk to them. Talk at them, to them, whatever. And remember, if you're an educator or you're curious about education or you care about it or you see some glitches, along with your State Board of Education, remember, your Senate and your legislators have an education committee too. Remember that. They have an education committee too. Now, funding comes through theirs, but remember, there's one there. Call them. If there's a question about something, ask them. Make them do some work. Now, I'm not saying don't ever attack your ISDs. I'm not saying that. But let's put the issue to the person in the place where it goes. So this time when our legislators are running and our senators are running, talk to them right now. Go to Facebook and everybody else's book and find out exactly what's going on with them. So we're going to move down. There's no election for our commissioners this year. But we do have our school board and we have our city council. Pay attention to your school board. Pay attention to your city council. Ask them questions. If you asked them a question last year and it wasn't done last year, ask it again this year and ask them why wasn't it done before. Hold them accountable. This year for the city of Killeen, your at-large people are running for city council. You have 12 of them. Call them, email them, Facebook them, however you can. You can get the information off your city's website for any seat that you're talking about. But hold them accountable also. Find out if you got some terrible streets. Find out from the city council people, when's my street going to get repaired? If they say, I don't know, that's not good enough. Seriously, it's not good enough. I don't want you to, I don't want to hear about that. Ask them what do they think about the fact that Northside Killeen is a food desert and nobody cares. And you brought it up last year and nothing has happened yet. Ask them what happened. Ask them now. You ask them now, you're going to find out that some of your city council people really don't care. You'll find out some don't care. Ask them. School district. Knowing that, for the school district, knowing that certain areas, certain schools are not making those kids compatible with the kids on the other side of town. Ask them why those schools are falling down like that and they're not doing anything about them. You brought it up last year. One of your city council people agreed with you and started addressing it. And in fact, it became a debate amongst the city council people. Your school board people. Ask them. Talk to them. Make sure they understand what you expect of them as school board members, as city council members. Bring it down to home to them. Don't ask them, are you going to raise my taxes? Because that's the favorite question. And they get off on that one real good. Ask those ouch questions. The questions that cause them to say, oh, ouch. Ask them how many vacant buildings and how much money have they received, and finding those people who own those buildings that are on the north side of Killeen, apartment buildings that look like, oh my God, if you blow at it, it's going to fall. Ask them that. Ask them about those things. Ask them why are you going to close the community center for 18 months and half of it's going to be, more than, I'll say 75% of it's going to belong to senior citizens. And the only room that the community will have will be the room in the gym, the two rooms off to the left or off to the right in the gym. Those are going to be the only community rooms. The rest is going to be senior center. So during the 18 months it's closed, where are those kids going? What are they going to do? What did the city have step aside into say, hey, listen, has the city asked the school board about the school? Has any communication taken place? I'll say to you right now, nope, none. What are we going to do? What your council people going to do? They ain't going to do nothing unless you bring it up. They're not going to do nothing. If you don't bring it up, it don't get brought up, and nobody will say anything. And you as a person would be saying, well, what about the schools? Nobody said nothing. Well, the question would be, did you? Did you bring it up to the council people? Did you say anything to them? Or were you one of the ones that allowed them to just stay where they are and do what they do? Were you one of the ones that said, I elected them, so I don't have to worry about them? I don't have to worry about that. They got this. Is that you? If it is, you need to fix that. We need to show our kids that we care about the community. Why can't the city tear down the Gilmore Center, rebuild it, make it bigger? Because there's space, there are trees back there, and they can, knock some of the trees down, and they got some space over there. Why can't they knock that building down and rebuild it for the senior center? How are you going to have senior citizens in the community center when it opens back up and you got kids playing basketball? Basketball is a noisy sport because it's supposed to be. It's not a quiet sport. It's not supposed to be. That's why they don't play those games together anywhere, because they're sports. The ball hits the wall sometime. You think senior citizens are going to be happy to be listening to a basketball game while they're trying to have anything going on? No, they're going to complain. Can anybody fix that problem? No, it cannot. Because that's the kind of sport basketball is. So now you're going to be creating a nightmare at the expense of the citizens. Because you remember, we just redid the community center. If you remember that, it was closed for a while because the whole community center had to be redone. Now that we've redone it, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. We're going to redo that building again. So we're spending money on that building twice in less than, 6 years? Is that making any sense to you? Not to me, but, am I going to voice my opinion about that? Yes. We need to stop being silent. We need to stop complaining quit complaining on Facebook if you're not going to do nothing about it. You know, I read it and I'm like, and people ask, I think this is dumb. Okay, I do too, but what did you do about it? I agree with you, but what did you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna stay on Facebook and all these other social settings? That we're gonna stay on those and complain, or are we gonna complain and do something? Or rather than complain, are we gonna stay? Hey, listen, guys, we need to get together because we need to bring this aboard. Are we gonna do that? We should. We really should. But it's time to go now. I want to thank you for listening this morning. I hope you got all your notes on what we need to do and who's where and how we need to vote for them and what their jobs are and the strategy to which we need to vote. We'll talk about it again, but listen to the forums because most of them are going to be virtual, so listen to them. But I want to thank you for listening to Kids Community Connection this morning. I want you to always remember you cannot lead a positive life with a negative mind. We will talk to you next Sunday. Bye.